Okay, we're at round two. I had to wait for it to upload. My phone keeps being a mess, so I apologize. So we were at, just as she starts to let down her walls and begin to let herself start to open up, she falls asleep at her uncle's and wakes up to her bottom button and zipper down on her pants and him standing over her, just about to reach for her. The fear and rage and shame and guilt came out all at once, and she grabs his whole face and tries to rip off his skin, then runs home to tell her dad. He wasn't home, so she told his wife, and her response was not to tell her dad because he wouldn't believe her because of all the other trouble she'd been in her life, and he would get mad. She tried to hold it in and choke it back. She had already tried to end it all a few times by then, but she couldn't even do that right. Yet this something kept her going, one foot in front of the other. Lost, nowhere to go, to live, nowhere to die. What the fuck was she supposed to do? Then out of the blackness, an opportunity shone through. A job on the carnival. She joined them and never looked back. For many years, she worked hard and partied harder, eventually made friends, but the laughter and joy from the parents and kids she would get to deal with every day allowed her a small time to become the closest to herself she had ever been. Of course, it seemed to fill the holes in her heart, and of course she would give all the love she had, helping down to her last, then hustle up money at work and just buy more. And of course, none of it mattered. She was used to not having things, and if she did, it wasn't for long. It was that needed it happier, so they must have needed it more than her, because those things never made her happy. So who cared? Bare necessities kept it easier to escape if needed. Fast forward to 20, and she goes to work on the carnival in the USA, and her dumbass falls in love, or what she thought it was. She worked very hard for that family, trying to make her husband happy, and prayed that would make the whole family happy and would finally create a home. She worked so hard, even pregnant, right up to till almost delivery day. Then she had a brand new baby and had to drive 1,000 kilometers to the next spot with a newborn baby, her first child, and all that fear, desperate need to protect and love that baby the way she had never got. They got there, and same day had her setting up a roller coaster. Literally, she was the walking dead. Some time passes, and she makes it almost 2.5 more years. But the remarks of, if you ever get skinny again, and working till absolute exhaustion, and never making anyone happy had her defeated. But still nothing would let her die. And when she decided no more traveling for her, he left her there, trying to convince herself it was the only way he knew how to love, as his examples of healthy marriages were as bad as hers. He was a fantastic dad, but not until he had no other choice. She walked out, but knew the child was the only thing he had wanted, and his financial stability and ability to barely work and always be paid let her know it was the best choice for her son to stay with dad, no matter how bad it hurt, and she hadn't moved far, so she would see him all the time. So she crammed that pain way down and began to eventually smile again and think she could make it all work out for everyone. And why not? Just another challenge to figure out. And she was getting pretty good at that. She met another man and thought she felt that spark of that unseen thing called love. And fairly quickly she was pregnant again. Then came the drama because of the difference of our skin. She never cared. She loved learning so many new things until he got mad and smacked her so hard he blew out her eardrum, sent her to the ground. She was hurt and sad and angry, but it wasn't even close to much of the other shit she had already overcome, and he loved her. Maybe that was the only way she could be loved. and it only happened a couple times a week, until her daughter was born at 28 weeks. He seemed scared and promised never to hit her again, and there sprang that fire of hope that now was the time. There was going to be a different way. As long as they both tried, they could do it. But it got so much worse. How she actually survived that was directly by God himself. For almost 2 more years she endured, believing his family actually wanted to help her. Instead, they took her daughter from her, saying she was an unfit mother for letting him beat her. It didn't matter how many times she begged for help and received none. When there was nothing left for her to live for, she said fuck it and made a mad dash out of the confinement he had her trained to stay within. Only 2 things could have happened. He would catch her and finally complete the task she couldn't, or she would run into the abyss and find a door. What she found 6 blocks away was a parked cop car. She banged on the window so hard, begging, "Please let me in, hurry." He was close behind and running faster. The officer looked up, and his jaw dropped at how bloody and swollen shut her face and eyes were, and he let her in. She begged him to just drive far and fast away. Finally, someone actually wanted to help her. He wanted her to press charges, but she knew if she did, she would have to stay, and so desperately just wanted to go back to Canada, to the evil she knew. She got on a bus the next day and had to endure so much shame on that ride. Shame and fear and anger and utter despair and failure and pain. But the physical pain was like stubbing your toe in comparison to all that and being a failure. But none of that even compared to the gaping wounds of having to leave her children, 1 foot in front of the other. Don't die, go to work, make money, for 10 years before she decided to ever try to love again. Thinking she was healed, not knowing she had just got better at forcing it down and going to work. She meets the 3rd love of her life, or what she thought it was, and she learned if she just kept her head down and paid for everything, he would be happy. But she made one detrimental mistake. She told him the damage her ex had done in detail, and instead of him loving her, he used those exact same ways to keep her in line. But he gave her her daughter, but before she was 5 months old, February 13th, he tried to drive them off a bridge and beat her up while she was driving. He went to jail for 45 days. Imagine that. She was left broken, so utterly damaged, and now had to care for a baby with little to no help from the family, and anything they did was always used as a weapon against her. The only thing she could do was pour all the love she could into protecting and feeding her baby, the only thing in the entire world that could have allowed her to believe God was real and not as angry with her anymore. 3 years later, she is working. Her family seems to be getting along better as long as she's doing everything she can for them, and her daughter loves them. And she thinks no matter how slanted it was, she could catch glimpses of that love going to her daughter, and began to hope real change was coming. Then she met love number 4. This one hit different. She felt like she could see through to his soul, and the conversations never stopped, and he would compliment her and help her work, and her daughter loved him, and he swore he would never hurt her like those others did. Then she did something brave and told him she loved him, and immediately he changed. He was belittling all he had encouraged up, and it never stopped, telling her all of her flaws and saying if she changed them, they could be together. They could truly be together. But no matter how hard she tried, he kept moving that goalpost and dangling the carrot, that love she so desperately wanted, but was never good enough to have. Okay, we're going to go part 3.